Okay, so normally on my channel, I talk about things like gang stalking and stuff like that, and narcissistic abuse, and I still will. And this video is honestly in the same vein, or there's ways that it can be in the same vein, but it's a little bit off-brand, I'll admit. Um, but it's just something that I really wanted to discuss. So today's topic is about the demonization of the explorer, especially when this explorer is female. Um, and I wanted to talk about this because one of the suckiest things about being a unique or what's the word I'm looking for? Not just unique, but being an outlier. In my previous channel, I had a video called "The Outliers." Being an outlier, is that people don't like diversity or uniqueness as much as they claim. Honestly, a lot of the times it's met with just a lot of hatred and projections and misunderstandings. And something that I'd like to discuss or clear the air about is one of the misunderstandings people have about explorer females. Explorer males, that is just such a common trope. Like that's literally practically expected of males. It's literally expected of them to explore the world, to go out there and just, and just subdue the earth, sow their wild oats, do whatever. Like just men exploring and getting experience like that is just it's just the expected. It's the norm. Them doing that doesn't ruffle any feathers. But women, on the other hand, we're expected to be these domestic servants, and by that I mean we're just expected to stick with just to just to be less of an explorer. You know, you and um yeah, just be less of an explorer. You get a job, you just work that job, and you don't want more. You just don't ever want for more when you're a woman. You just take what is given you, and you hold it and you cherish it, and that's that. And when you aren't that, um, yeah, when you're just that woman who's the explorer, who's just like, yeah, no, I want to see what's out there. You kind of get demonized a lot, and I'm not. You know what? And unfortunately, because of the fact that all of this, there's so many stories and songs that kind of glamorize women who aren't explorers. These non-explorer females, they kind of they're just given the soapbox, and they just kind of they also do the work of demonizing explorer males, um, along with explorer females. These honestly, a lot of it has to do with if you live long enough, you'll realize that it goes both ways. The only reason men get there's truth to every stereotype, but the real reason that men get the trope of being the calm, cool, collected, cerebral type isn't because they actually are, but it's just because for two reasons. Men, they talk a lot, like they fucking talk a lot, and they over talk, and they want their voices to be heard over everyone's. So whatever narratives they put out there, it just gets, considered truth. And then, there's also the fact that women have just, traditionally been, uh, once again expected to hover around certain spaces and just stay there. So we're just not out there. We're just not as we don't put ourselves as out there as much as the guys do. We don't put our opinions as out there as much as guys do. Yeah, we just don't do any of that because for a few reasons, but I'm not here to get into that. What I'm here to talk about is how men and women like to demonize the explorers, and and just just shed some light on that a bit. Because and how this all ties into with gang stalking and stuff like that is something you'll notice if you're ever a victim of narcissistic abuse or gang stalking is that they like to try to find ways to demonize any aspect of your humanity that that they can. You know, I brought up that one book before about the priest that was in that Chinese thought reform camp, and and in the book, you know, they were talking about how part of brainwashing you and breaking you down uh, is to destroy your thesis or the positive aspects of you and to encourage your antithesis or your antithesis and or encourage, you know, the parts of you that you're trying to distance yourself from or that you consider negative. um, and how that's all done in order to it's all done in order to put you in a place of psychological harm. It's meant to make you lose your identity. That's what it's really meant to do. It's meant to make you lose your identity because once you've lost your identity, they can go ahead and put one in there, put whatever identity in there that they want for you, and you, this destabilized human being, you're looking to cling on to anything, and so then you will cling on to whatever identity it is that they, you know, that they're offering you. Um, and this is kind of what shaming is meant to do. You know, shaming is a very powerful tool, and honestly, when used correctly, it can be very it can be just it's not, you know, and very few things are bad in and of themselves. Shame is a shame can be used positively. Um, Shame is an emotion for a reason. It's good. It's not really that horrible, but people like to sit there and make you feel ashamed about things you really shouldn't feel ashamed over, and it's because of shortcomings of their own. And and let's just get right into it. So I was looking at this one. I had someone show me this one meme, and in the meme it was more or less something stating like that guy isn't broke. He just doesn't want to spend money on you, you know? And I was like, that's funny. Like, yeah, that's kind of how it goes, you know? Um, you know, in a lot of female spaces, we have this expression of if he wanted to, he would. Like, girl, you need to understand. Like, if he wanted to, if he wanted to, he would. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if any guy is making you, if you feel unsure about anything to do, odds are, girl, he ain't interested. Odds are he hasn't, you know, developed his communication skills. And either way, you don't want that. So just move on or get prepared to move on. Or just don't get too attached, you know, have some fun or something. Um, and that expression really works both ways. And and it's just despite this being, you know, pretty solid advice, you know, there's always that aspect of us that's just hoping or wanting for something more sometimes in situations. And instead of just accepting that, okay, you're not going to get more from that situation, a lot of the times we do this thing where we just demonize the person that isn't giving us what we want instead of realizing this person doesn't want to give us what we want and we need to move on, or or accepting that that person isn't capable of giving us what we want and moving on. Because you know, it's always one of two things: they're either not capable of, or they just don't want to. And in either case, you need to just accept reality and move on. Um, but what oftentimes happens is we try to force people into, you know, doing this or doing that. We try to force people into certain molds. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that these things are necessarily bad, because if you've had, you know, if things have been going well up until, you know, a certain point, you might think to yourself, okay, this is something we can overcome. But at the end of the day, Um, I'm all about moving consciously. I'm all about moving realistically, and something that a lot of people one demonize me for is and it's really weird. Like it's just so weird. Like and let's just start getting into the meat of things. When you are somebody that just never overestimates or oversteps what you mean in someone's life, and you don't allow people to overstep what their influence in your life, you oftentimes get called cold or as if you don't have the same emotions and things as much as them. And it's like, no, no. It's not that I don't feel the same emotions as you. I just don't let them take over, especially when it comes to certain things that I consider extremely, extremely important. Um, and and choosing a life partner is extremely there's just certain things you do want out of life and you don't want out of life, and when it comes to who I'm going to have in my camp for the rest of my life, like that's just extremely that's just not something that I'm willing to skimp around. When it comes to choosing, a job is a fucking job. That's just some shit you do for, you know, for money. What else is there? Certain things, in life, they really just aren't. You could swap it out with anything and you'd be happy. It really doesn't make a difference. Um, but those things that you just can't easily replace, or those relationships that you just can't easily swap, mitch and match, and do things like that shit, you gotta really think about that shit. Um, and a lot of people don't, which really surprises me. Uh, and and they'll say it's for things like this, that, or the third, but I ain't even gonna get into that. So let's just get back to the topic though. So yeah, there was that one meme, where the guy was like, yeah, yeah, I ain't broke, I just don't want to spend it on you, And the reason why I brought that meme up is because there's this uh, there's this one thing that's going around, this idea that's going around uh, where it just kind of fits in with the topic I'm talking about. Sometimes a person isn't necessarily a bad person or is incapable of something. They just don't choose you. And you just have to accept that. You know, um, in relationships and in dating, a lot of times we test our partners and stuff like that, which I have absolutely no issue with at all. You should test your partner. You should. But you should test your partner. Emphasis on the partner part. A lot of the times y'all be out here, trying to test somebody that y'all haven't even had a talk about being together for the rest of your lives. Y'all haven't even y'all haven't even be had that conversation of being boyfriend and girlfriend. Y'all haven't done none of that shit. And you're out here testing some dude or testing some girl, and they're quote unquote failing your test, and it's just like and you're feeling some type of way about it, or thinking that it's some type of representation of who they are as a person. And it's like, no, bitch, if you were somebody else, they probably would have passed that test. But they didn't, because they just don't feel the same way about you. And it's not that they're a bad person, they just don't feel the same. You're just not the one. You're not the one they want to pass the test for. And it brings me back to this one time I was working at the mall, and this dude, I could tell that I don't know, I had picked up some interest. Um, he had a motorcycle, and he was talking about, like, hey, if I bought another, helmet, would you ever take a ride with me? And I was like, hell yeah, dude, because I love motorcycles. Honestly, I think that shit is, I want one. But but I could tell he had picked up some interest in me. But this dude hadn't asked me out. Um, and apart from just saying things like, Jill, I'm glad you're not ghetto, or Maria, I'm glad you're not you have a nice, pleasant voice. Or, Ashley, you're adventurous. That's cool. Apart from things like that, he didn't really, express any real, he was just being cool, like, I'm sorry, just saying someone has a pleasant voice, that's not, someone saying that to me, a guy saying that to me wouldn't make me think he's interested in me. Like, that's just, I'm sorry, that's just, you gotta bring a little more. Like I said, don't ever overestimate, what you mean to somebody or what somebody means to you. Cause like, yeah, no, that's just not enough. Um, One thing I don't confuse is being nice and being interested. Um, but despite this, like I said, the only things he had ever said to me up to that point was, "You're not ghetto. You are have a pleasant voice, and and I noticed that you take yourself home. If I got another helmet, would you be cool with riding on a motorcycle?" And I was like, "Sure." Um, and I recognized that this dude decided to test me, and one day, and he was talking, he was bringing up a conversation, and and he was asking me a question that was kind of about quote unquote reverse colorism, and because he was a really very light guy, he was very fair. Um, and if you know anything about colorism in minority communities, oftentimes, especially when you're a guy and you're fair, it's like they see you as some type of sissy boy. And when you're a female and you're dark, they see you as some type of masculine Debbie, some she-man, which is unfortunate, but that's kind of how it goes. And I could tell that this fair-skinned dude had some wounds um, from from his past of being, in a certain. It's typically in more impoverished communities that this kind of dance happens. But it's still at the top two, but it's really at the bottom where it's really pronounced. And so here I have this light skinned dude talking to me about a lot of the stereotypes that people have about light skinned guys, and then he just looks at me. He's like, so yeah, like I forget what it was exactly, but he was kind of basically saying he was saying shit about light skinned people. He was like, man, because people that have light skinned dudes, they're this and they're that. Like light skinned dudes, they just. It was like he was just saying those things, and I could tell that he was testing me to see how I would respond to that. And you know what? I grew up in a very, first of all, multicultural society. I have, and not only on top of that, but I have a very mixed family myself. My family is very like you don't know what you'll get. Well, you get an idea of what you'll get, but my family is just we range in terms of appearances, in terms of colors, in terms of eye colors, hair. It's just there's a range. I've looked in green eyes all my life. I've looked in hazel eyes all my life. I've looked in light brown eyes all my life. I looked in brown eyes. Like I've I've seen the spectrum all my life. Like it really doesn't. Yeah, I've been exposed to the spectrum. It really doesn't make a difference to me. Um, but yeah, here I had this dude, and I just noticed that he was just trying to see if I had just test me. And I noticed that he was testing me because he was trying to see if he should or shouldn't ask this girl out. And I gotta admit, in that moment, I kind of felt offended. Um, Not offended, but just kind of like, who are you to test me? And I don't even like we aren't even a thing. Like, like it was just this thing of and I was just like, oh yeah, dude, light skin. Yeah, I started saying this shit and that shit about light skin. I didn't really feel that way. I didn't really care. I didn't really, none of that. And then he just gave me this knowing, like oh, she failed the test look. And then, and after that, things were different. But it's just at the end of the day, though, I was just like, bro, like, really, like, come on, like, come on, son, like, it was just one of those things. But yeah, it was just one of those situations, and it's just a lot of y'all be testing people, and it's like you need to make sure that that person is even, you know, interested in you before you go, doing some shit like that. Because at the end of the day, like if that person's not interested in you, they're not interested in failing in passing your test. You might say, oh, well, that's the purpose of the test. Well, here's the thing though. If you would interpret someone failing your test as them not being interested in you, that's cool. But a lot of y'all interpret someone failing the test that they give you or that you give them, a lot of y'all interpret that as that person being, oh, that person's this or that person's that. A lot of y'all take it as some type of character analysis. A lot of y'all take it as something that just shows who they are as a person instead of if they're interested in you, and that's where the issue comes from. So before you guys go, out here testing people, you got to realize, like, if someone ain't interested in you, they ain't interested in passing your test, and someone failing your test is not a sign that they're a shitty person or that they're this or that person. It's just probably a sign that they're just not interested in you. That's really what it comes down to. um, and that brings me back to another thing. There's this thing going around right now where and I saw this one thing where people are like, your ex coming back to you is not a it's not a compliment. They went out there and they couldn't find anything better, so they came back to you. And this is one of those things where it's like cup half empty, cup half full, type of thing. And it kind of brings me back to the heart of this video that I'm making, and that is it's really interesting to me how in this society we have these two expressions going on, where one is like if you love something, you'll let it go, and if it comes back to you, it's meant to be yours. And then in the same breath, your ex coming back to you is not a compliment. It's just them coming back because of a failed quest. And it's just like, calm down, ho, like calm down, dude, like calm down, chick. Like, once again, first of all, y'all just gotta understand, like, I don't understand why there is this whole push to demonize exploration. um and it's honestly at so many different levels in society. Like, there's just, but especially when it comes to romance, there is this real demonization of and especially if you're a woman, especially if you're a woman, like, people swear to God, like, if you're a woman and you meet a nice guy and you just want to explore your, like, that is just like the most, like, people will literally demonize you for that shit. Like, it's fucking weird. But oh, a guy dating 50, 11 girls, and then in his 50s deciding to settle down, like, go ahead, dude, you just go ahead. And it's just the most ridiculous double standard that there is in this society. But at the end of the day, there's this demonization of exploration that is just so, that is more telling of the accuser than it is of the explorer. You guys gotta understand something. You are not the main character in someone else's life. Like, you are not, no matter how much you relate to somebody, no matter how similar you guys are, no matter how much you care about each other, at the end of the day, that person is living their own life. That person has their own life to fucking live. And if this person wants to explore, if this person wants to do this, if this person has enjoyed their time with you, but then they're like, you know what? I'm just curious as to what else is out there. Like, let them go. It's okay. Like, y'all just be. And I think a lot of it has to do with that whole anxious attachment thing. It's like yeah, it's like this and I'm not saying that You want to be with somebody that's okay with losing you, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's like yeah, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not saying that we should all be lukewarm individuals that don't get attached to the people that we are in relationships with and things like that, and that the idea of being, attached to someone or to an outcome or shit like that is ridiculous, or that it's negative, or that it shouldn't be. No, that's just fine. That is completely normal. In fact, you shouldn't feel like, I don't think that you should get into a lukewarm relationship. Y'all should be 100% certain about each other. Y'all should be, um, but it's just, at the end of the day, it should really be more of a conscious choice rather than a feely choice. What I mean by that is, feelings, they come and go, you guys. Feelings come and fucking go. Like, if your relationship is built just on love, that shit is probably gonna fail. I'm sorry. Like, there's this idea that we have in this society where love conquers all. And no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Choice conquers all. Decisions conquer all. At the end of the day, choice conquers all. And I think that even though, having a dysfunctional family can be a negative in so many ways, one of the positives that come from, that could come from seeing your parent, choose things like drugs and other shit over you, is it's like I just need to recognize that they got whole ass parents out here. And not just any parents, but I mean moms. And the reason why I'm putting emphasis on the moms is because these women, they have whole ass mothers out here that will grow a child in their womb, feel its heartbeat, feel it kicking, feel all that shit, give birth to it, labor for 21 fucking hours or some crazy shit like that. Um, they'll breastfeed it, they'll take it home, they'll do all that shit, and they will not give a fuck about that child. They will abuse that child, they will neglect that child, they just don't give a fuck. Like, they literally shared a body with that child in a way that no other person can on this earth. You know, you think having sex is sharing bodies? No. Being pregnant, like, that is literally, you're literally two people at once. Y'all are literally sharing an entire body, a nervous system of feelings. Like, y'all are literally the same. All that shit is going on. And these women can, at the end of the day, just not give a fuck about their kids, can even grow up to hate their fucking kids, just neglect and abuse them, while they're children and all this other shit. And it's just like, if parental love isn't even a guarantee in this world, you know, if you can, if your own mama can, if you can't even get if the love between a parent and a child, the love that a child has for their parent can't even get them to change. What? I'm sorry, but there's just, yeah, love does just, it just doesn't conquer all. It just really doesn't. Every child deserves a parent, but not every parent deserves a child, and it's just like, in relationships like that, like, if that can't even, you know, create change, I don't know what can. So yeah, no, love doesn't conquer all. At the end of the day, like, if your relationship is just based on love, chances are it'll end, because feelings come and go, feelings change. But when you make the decision to stick with something or someone because you're just making that conscious decision, like, that right there is, that right there. Like, when someone makes a choice, like, this is how I want to live, this is the way I want to live, you're who I want to be with, that that actually means something more that's a bit more stable. Um, and and it also goes back to it just also goes back to that whole explorer thing, you know. Look, someone going out there and exploring their options. And I mean, like, look at it this way: someone literally explored their options, and then they couldn't find anything better than you. You know how many fucking people there are on this planet? You know how many fucking people there are on this planet? And after exploring all the different types of people that there are on this planet, someone was like, nah, I ain't never had that connection that I had with so and so. Let me go back home. Like, that's, I'm sorry, like, y'all need to stop, like, over, like, it's okay. Like, people get to explore, people get to see what else is out. Like, I don't, y'all need to chill. Like, y'all need to chill. And look, at the end of the day, if you decide you want something different or better, or you decide, look, I don't want to, I'm not going to be available, like, that's cool too. But it's just, yeah, this whole demonization of exploring, like, I just, because it goes with so much too, like, it's even beyond romance. Like, y'all hate when, like, I just, oh my god, it's just like, it's just crazy how your youth is meant to be a time where you spend time exploring and finding yourself and figuring out what you really want out of life. But people will literally demonize you at this in the same breath for doing that. Like, how dare you explore? How dare you see what you like? How dare you get an idea for what you want out of life? Like, it's just the most ridiculous shit ever. And what's craziest is that it typically happens when you're a young adult. Like, I just don't understand how between the ages of 18 and 24, people are demonizing like people for exploring. Like, that shit is fucking weird. Like, it's literally weird. Like, y'all really be out here demonizing young girls for exploring their sexuality. Y'all really be out here demonizing young men for deciding, oh man, that commitment I made to you when I was 21, yeah, I've changed. Like, you know, like, at the end of the day, like, shit just, some people, you know, there are some people out here where they know what they want and they just know it, and they just, and at 16 they know it, and then that's it. But there are other people who, you know, it just takes a little more time for them to know what they want. Like, they want to, and that's okay. That's okay. Like, sometimes, like, someone isn't bad, they're just not the one. Like, you're just not the one, like, and that's okay. And maybe you're not the one right now, but you will be later. Like, y'all gotta understand, like, you aren't special. Nobody is that special. Like, I'm sorry, like, there's no golden penis, there's no golden vagina. Like, we all got the same pussy. They all got the, well, honestly, dicks vary. I think dicks probably vary more than vaginas do. But at the end of the day, like, y'all need to chill. Like, it's okay. Like I said, they got whole ass parents out here that won't even change for their kids. And y'all be mad because somebody that you've only known for 6 months isn't willing to rearrange their entire life for you. Like, like, really think about that shit. Y'all, like, really think about that shit. They got people, y'all have siblings that you've known your entire fucking life. And it's just like, people really want you to give them the same love, respect, admiration that you give for someone you've known your entire life to someone that you've only known 6 months, not even a whole fucking year. Like, that shit is fucking, like, don't get me wrong. Dating and siblings and all that other shit is different. It is, it's different. But love is pretty, like, that feeling of love is pretty, there's levels to it. There are levels to it. Um, but it's just like, it's just no wonder the divorce rates are so high. No wonder there's so many broken homes and families. It's because y'all just, y'all demonize exploration. Y'all demonize not even just exploration, but just like y'all think you're special. That's why y'all really out here thinking you're special. And it's really weird because I'm not saying that you need to humble yourself or that you, but honestly, in a sense, that's kind of what it is. Like, people really need to, like, y'all need to chill, like, calm down, humble yourself, you know? As someone who, it's just really weird because, part of, and it's kind of what it ties into the whole gang stalking and narcissistic abuse that I've been dealing with. Um, Part of my abuse, has been people trying to push me to people trying to punish me for not being their version of authentic, and punish me for not being what they would consider punish me for being what they would consider too humble or things like that, or too unassuming, or too passive. But it's just like, bitch, at the end of the day, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I don't have low self-esteem. I don't, I'm not downtrodden. I don't hate myself or anything like that, but I know I'm not special. Like, at the end of the day, like, I don't. And people, they'll sit there and they'll go like, uh something that I always bring up, is the fact that, like, if this is happening at this rate, I don't think that I'm gonna be the, like, if there's an 80% chance that you're gonna fail at something, there are some people that see themselves as being in the 20, and then there are those of us that see themselves as being in the 80. And then there are those of us that just see, I have a very high likelihood of failing at this. So let me take extra steps in order to make sure that I don't fail, but if I do, like, no hard feelings. Like, there's just those people that, they do the same. And this is a better way of putting it. Let's say you're having a race, and there's 80% chance of failing that race, and everyone is training the exact same way for the race. They're just leaving it up to chance to see on who, despite everyone putting in the same input, getting different outputs. And, people typically fall into one of those two camps. They see themselves as, oh, I'm probably going to fail even though I'm doing the same training as everyone, or, oh, I'm probably going to succeed even though I'm doing the same training as everyone. And then there's people in my camp. I'm going to train differently to see if I can get into the 20% chance of success, but I still recognize that there's an 80% chance of failing. That 80% chance of failing is what makes me go, okay, let me analyze this situation and see what I can do differently. Like, why is there an 80% chance of failing at this thing? There has to be something that can be what's the word I'm looking for? There has to be a standardized way of getting to that 20%. Like, there has to be something that I can do to, you know, to ensure my chances of, or just to increase my chances of success. You know, there has to be another way about this, because if doing things their way gives me that 80-20, I mean, that 20-80% chance, success, then how can I do things differently to give myself maybe a 50-50, or give myself a 60-40, you know? And there's just, that's what that's about. But yeah, like, y'all, I'm just I'm just humble. Like, I just recognize that it could be me. I don't think I'm special. Like, I don't think that and once again, That doesn't mean I have low self-esteem. That doesn't mean I hate myself. That doesn't mean any of that negative shit. It just means I'm realistic. Um, and some of y'all just need to be more realistic. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't mean don't go for what you want. It just means strategize better. Pick up a fucking strategy. and and don't don't feel too hard about some shit. And that's all.